Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Say, President and CEO of the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us for our Clerk of the Court candidate Q&A. We have a special election coming up on March 30th for the Culpeper County Clerk of the Court. We have two candidates, Carson Beard and Marshall Keene. Let's get started. Candidate for Clerk of the Court, Carson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Carson, we're going to have an introduction. That'll be 3 minutes. There will be a series of 6 questions that we will ask you. Those will also be for 3 minutes. I will signal you when you are 30 seconds out, and again at the full time to stop. And then you will have an opportunity for a closing statement that'll take 3 minutes. So please, I will start the timer, and the floor is yours for your introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carson Beard. I'd like to first thank the Chamber for hosting this Zoom sort of improvised forum. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm born and raised in Culpeper County. Been here all my life. I went to school at James Madison University, attained a bachelor's degree in justice studies. After I graduated JMU, I then came back to Culpeper. I worked briefly part-time as a park attendant with the town of Culpeper. It's actually through the police department. Then after that, I started working at the clerk's office in 2014. I am from a rather large family here, although our numbers are dwindling at this point, but I've known this area my whole life, no other area I want to be in. I just really hope that everything turns out well with this election. I humbly ask for everyone to please vote for me. I started in the clerk's office as a deputy clerk, mainly working in the courtroom. I then, where you handled orders and exhibits and things of that nature, you sat next to the judge. I then became chief deputy, which I basically supervised the courtroom division. After I was chief deputy, and when Mrs. Corbin retired as clerk, I was appointed by the court as interim clerk, and I currently serve in that capacity. It's been a whirlwind. I enjoy every day. I enjoy working with the employees I have. I'm so thankful for the employees I have. Could not do the job without them. And I think it's really important for everybody to learn what the clerk of court does. I think it's a job that maybe not a lot of people know about. Certainly I didn't know about when I first started. I had very limited knowledge coming into it, but you learn a lot, and it takes a lot of time to learn it. And it is not a easy or simple job. And I cannot tell you how thankful I am for everybody that works with me. And I'm just happy to be there. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready to answer any questions that the chamber has. I think we have some prepared questions, and I'm ready anytime. And I appreciate everybody's support, and I appreciate anybody who's watching.
Thank you, Carson. As you mentioned, we have prepared questions. First one. How would you define the role of the clerk of the court, and what are the most common ways the public is served by the position?
I think the main role of clerk of the court is to receive, maintain, and preserve the record. I think that we are keepers of the record. We are a court of record. I think it's important to realize that pretty much everything that the clerk of court does is governed by either the Code of Virginia or the court itself. I mean, we serve at both of those. And we also serve the public. I think some of the more common things that people are familiar with the clerk's office, land records, of course, that's a big one. Pretty much every interview I've been a part of there at the clerk's office, the first thing that someone says that they know about the clerk's office are land records. Another big aspect, marriage license. So if you're in the Commonwealth and you plan to get married within 60 days, come get your marriage license. Another big aspect of the office, concealed handgun permits. We have seen an influx of those. So we get probably over 100 applications a month. So that right there is more than likely close to 100 people a month. That doesn't include renewals, which can be done by mail. So that number may be a little lower of in-person people, but the first time you have to come and get your application in person. Those are some of the main things I think people are more familiar with. The clerk really is, like I said, there to maintain the record. All of the documents are kept. I mean, we're the keeper of the record. That's why we're called a court of record. General District Court and Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court are not a court of record. So I think that's important to note, that we have a lot of files, a lot of paper, a lot of things that we keep and have to keep. And those are some of the ways that I think the public are familiar with. As far as other ways we serve the public, I mean, probate and wills, that's another huge aspect, and a very trying time for many people. And we are there for that as well. So those are really the main ways that we serve the public. Of course, we have our civil cases involving divorces or anything like that, and criminal cases, of course, as well. Felonies, misdemeanors, traffic infractions. We can handle all of those cases. So that's how we serve.
What qualifications set you apart for the clerk of the court position?
As I stated earlier, I started there in 2014 in the clerk's office. I had recently graduated from James Madison University with a degree in justice studies. I think that really helped me have a base knowledge of things that I really used on a day-to-day basis, especially when I started in the courtroom. I mean, it was very important to have some of that knowledge going in. I worked, I couldn't tell you how many hours in the courtroom. It would be at least 2 to 3 days a week I would work court. And that was a very detailed aspect of our office. From preparing the files for the week, preparing each individual file with a worksheet, then going to court. That's a whole other aspect. You have to keep up with the court. You have to keep up with the Commonwealth. You have to do any paperwork, dispositions, continued custodies, whatever is required that day. You receive exhibits. You keep the exhibits. I mean, it is a very intensive part of the job. And that, I think, really prepared me for becoming interim clerk. And as I stated, I became chief deputy after our chief deputy retired and supervised that area of the office, which brought with it, I still went to court. I still did all of those things, but also came with a supervisory role. And then, of course, as being interim clerk, I've been interim clerk since January, and it has been an honor. I couldn't think of anything else I would want to do. It has been a real pleasure to work with all of the employees, because I worked with them as coworkers. Now I'm the boss, and it's just a delight. And I think without that experience, I don't see how someone could come in and run an office of that magnitude without any experience. It's incredibly important work, and really enjoy it. And I've been there over 6 years. Not a day that goes by that you don't learn something new, and then you have to deal with it. You have to look up in the code, manual, whatever that you have to do. But you need to have a pretty good knowledge to run that.
All right. Thank you. What steps would you take to modernize the clerk's office?
So that's a big part of what I want to do. I think I don't want to say we're behind the times, but certainly can catch up a little bit. I want to bring in filing, so you can file some civil cases electronically. I would like to do e-recording, so you could record land records electronically. I'd also like to start scanning, more back scanning old land records that we don't currently have scanned on the system, and scanning some of the older files. In fact, I've had a survey done with a company to see how much it cost to back scan some of the old files, civil. And so I've already started on that path. I think it's important for things like that. I mean, you're not necessarily saying that someone has to do it electronically. We'll still be open to take paper filings. Makes it easier for the customer to better serve their needs. Another big aspect would be online payments, court costs. If someone doesn't have to come to the office, everybody has a busy life. Maybe they begin to pay, they can just pay it online. And that would be a huge step. And I've already talked with OES, which is the Office of the Executive Secretary at the Supreme Court, about going. In fact, I talked to them a while ago about it, and there's a certain aspect of the job where we have to transmit a treasury check to the Commonwealth each day based upon what we took in the prior day. And I was the one that really led that to be an online transaction. Instead, we used to write a check for that, and I led that to be online so we could just transmit electronically. And at the same time, I discussed online payments. And I think that would be a big way, a big help to a lot of people to not have to come in the office and be able to pay online. I think those are the main things that technology can really help the public. I mean, it's just all about ease of access.
Thank you. What are some of the fees the public could be charged when visiting the office? And if elected, are there any you would change?
Well, the fees are really, like I stated earlier, about every aspect of the clerk's office is governed by the Code of Virginia. And those are also governed by the Code of Virginia. There's not a whole lot of room that the clerk can waive any fees. The only thing that I can think of that I am considering, since I want to go more electronic, I want to begin to allow all transactions to be done by credit card. So you can still pay cash, obviously, but to do more credit card. And that is a 4% fee to pay the credit card company that does the machine. But it could be a $2 flat rate on each transaction. And that's something I would like to do. I also would like to look into getting 2 more credit card machines to cover all 3 registers, because we only have 1 credit card machine at the moment. So that is a fee that I would like to probably reduce, because 4% on whatever transaction could be a fair amount. But I've already looked into that. But the fees are governed by 17.1-275, I believe. It lays out a number of fees that the clerk has to charge. It says shall. I think the fee question is a good question. I think it probably was spurred on by a concealed handgun permit issue. our fee for that is $50. Now that's broken down in three parts. $10, which we shall charge according to the code, 182308.03, I believe. So we have to charge that. State police gets $5, and the local law enforcement agency, which would be our sheriff's office, gets $35 for the background. So to lower that, one of those agencies would have to waive their fee, and they have not done so. So we have to charge that. So I think that the majority of the fees are you have to do as the clerk. I mean, it is governed by the code. You don't just simply get to say, oh, I'm not going to charge that. You have to do what the law says, and that is what we will continue to do.
Thank you. During recent mock interviews hosted by Career Partners, juniors at CCPS were asked about their social media presence. How does your social media presence play a role for clerk of the court in their office?
I think social media can play a big role, and I would really like to start that. I know a lot of other clerks, and they use it very effectively. For example, Gary Clemens in Loudon, he is very active on social media, very active on the internet. He knows how to really inform the public, and I think it's something that I would really be willing and able to do. I think it's important to keep everybody updated on what may be happening in the office. Let's say closed, or you had to close early for some reason. Let's say there's a new law change. You may want to put that out there so people can have easier access and know before they come in the office, and they can look at it immediately. We try to get the website updated, but that takes some time. You have to contact, for instance, with the state website, you have to contact them and they have to update. So you can't just you don't have access to update your own website unless we created our own website. So I think that would be a quicker way to really inform the public and keep them apprised of everything in the clerk's office. And I have thought about that for quite some time, including looking at other clerks' pages. And like I said, Gary Clemens in Loudon is a really good example of how to keep the public informed. And of course, that would be something I would be interested in. As running a campaign Facebook page myself, I think I have the ability to do it because I run that myself. No one else. I respond to every message, every comment, everything. So I think I'm more than capable of doing that.
Thank you. If elected, what are your goals for the office?
I think that is basically sort of been covered. I think modernization is a huge aspect for the office. I think that as we bring in more technology, you can really better serve the public. And it's not saying the public, is unable to do the way they used to do it. If they want to come in and file paper, that's fine. But just giving the option for people that may want to do it with a more ease of use. I think that is the biggest part. But as far as the level of customer service, I think that we have been very well with that. I think, Mrs. Corbin ran a great office, and we were very detailed, and we continue to be very detailed in serving the public. We go above and beyond what a lot of other clerks' offices do. And I think that's important. And I've had many attorneys note that to me, and many of the public note that to me. And I think it's a testament of the whole office. And of course, I want to continue to serve the public that way. And when you mix that in with your access technology, we could have a really smooth running clerk's office. And I think that would best serve the public. really want to move forward with that technology, because that has always been a big part of what I've kind of preached the whole time I've been there. And I think with that involved, we could really serve the public well.
Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for doing this and attempting the other two forums. I know things happen and it's unfortunate, but I'm very thankful that they put this on. I want to thank everybody that supported me. I could not, I'm so humbled by all the support. Every day there's, people tell me on the street or they comment. I'm just very humbled by all the support. I love this community. I always have. I never wanted to leave. It tore me away when I went to college. But, I immediately came back right after JMU and just really love Culpeper. It's a place that I've known and grown up in. I have, like I said, deep ties to the community, and I just want to serve the community that has served myself and my family well over many, many, many years. And I'm just so thankful for all the support. And I humbly ask for you to vote for me on March 30th. Of course, early voting at the registrar's office is currently underway, with which ends on the 27th. They're open on the 20th and the 27th. Those are Saturdays as well during their normal office hours. I just really am thankful for everyone in this community. And I'm thankful to be interim clerk, and I hope to continue to serve as clerk of the court. I appreciate it.
Mr. Beard, thank you so much for joining us. And we will now begin with Mr. Keene. The floor is yours for an opening statement.
Hello, I'm Marshall Keene, your Republican candidate for Circuit Court Clerk. First, thank you to Jeff for hosting this virtual forum and for the opportunity. I won't take too long with my introduction. Most people who are actively involved or vested in their community may already know me and what I represent. I was born and raised in Tazewell County. I grew up with my parents and two brothers in Southwest Virginia's coal country. I'm from a working class family where my dad was a coal miner and my mom a nurse. My upbringing was tough, but it taught me about hard work and that no one hands you anything. I knew early on in life I wanted to serve my country and community. I graduated high school at the age of 17. I was standing on the Marine Corps yellow footprints in Parris Island 2 days later. When you are a Marine, you're something much larger than yourself. As a member of the finest fighting force this country knows, I was able to leave there with the experiences and leadership to continue my career in public service. After the Marine Corps, I used my skill sets, leadership traits, and life experiences to become a law enforcement officer. I have over 21 years serving in law enforcement and over 10 of those years here in Culpeper. So you can honestly say that for the past 25 years, I've wrote a blank check every day, not knowing what the future held. Keeping the peace, protecting others and their rights, and upholding the constitutional rights of all people is a privilege and honor that I do not take lightly. In addition to being a veteran and law enforcement officer, I am a husband and father to 3 girls and a small business owner. In 2017, I was elected to the Culpeper School Board to represent the Stevensburg District. I am currently the school board's chairman. I also serve on the Capital Planning Committee, the Joint Board of Supervisors School Board Capital Improvement Committee, and the Career Technical Education Committee. Hopefully, by the time you're watching this video, we have formulated a plan to return our students back to the classrooms. As you can see, my commitment and dedication to the public is lifelong.
Thank you. We'll begin with our first question. How would you define the role of the clerk of the court, and what are the most common ways the public is served by the position?
Good question, Jeff. The circuit court clerk's role is to develop, implement, officer, one of only 5 in Culpeper. We, the people, choose our constitutional officers, and it's important to know where those elected officials stand on important issues to the citizens. This is the most important time I've ever seen in my life for political stand. More is at risk now in Virginia and our country than I've ever seen before, Jeff. There is no doubt where I stand on the First and Second Amendment. There is no doubt where our Board of Supervisors stand collectively. And there's no doubt where our sheriff stands. We, the people, choose who we put in their office. Therefore, it makes sense that we should know who our candidates are and what their beliefs and stances are. What do you actually know about my opponent? What are his core beliefs? What stands in our community have you seen from him? Where does he stand on constitutional county resolutions or the Second Amendment? We can only assume and draw our own conclusions because he has never taken a stand. Or we can make a fair assumption based off his endorsement of the Democrat Party and those associated with his campaign. When you have the Culpeper Democrat Committee spending money on his campaign and actively campaigning for him, you can only come to one obvious conclusion. These are the same people who are instrumental in working against our Constitution, and with less than a week from Election Day, we have zero clue where my opponent stands on any of these issues.
Thank you. What qualifications set you apart for the clerk of the court position?
Jeff, there's more to managing the constitutional office than being likable. It requires leadership experience and, most importantly, life experiences. These are experiences that I believe my opponent does not quite possess yet. In years to come, he may gain those experiences with more time in leadership roles, but right now he doesn't have them. By his own admission, he's only held one supervisor position his entire life, and that was for less than 6 months, supervising less than a handful of people. He's yet to mention any leadership courses and our conferences that has taught him how to be an efficient and effective leader and communicator. In my 25 years of public service, I've held numerous leadership positions in the Marine Corps, law enforcement, local government, and in community organizations. Jeff, the clerk's leadership has to be someone who is accessible to the community, someone who has a proven track record of leadership. I have a lifetime of leadership roles and experiences to match. My lifetime experience combined with leadership has led me to where I'm at today, Jeff. I'm the candidate you all know. I'm not aware of my opponents serving any civic organizations and or being involved in any community events, much less being the man out in front of those organizations and events, leading those organizations. Those are the clear and obvious reasons that set me apart from my opponent.
Thank you. What steps would you take to modernize the clerk of the court office?
Modernization and responsible cost efficiency are definitely areas that need to be evaluated on day one. The cost to our taxpayers should always be paramount. In terms of modernization, I've actually done some extensive research on how we bring the clerk's office into the 21st century with relationships with our attorneys, real estate professionals, and the general public. Jeff, I believe we need to implement an e-service solution management system to distribute court-generated documents. Our service to the community has to be improved so citizens can receive their documents much more quickly and in a well-documented manner. For an example, an e-file system will note when a service is made, what was served, and even when it was accessed by the receiving party. That e-file platform will cut costs to the taxpayer by spending less on paper, envelopes, printing, postage. You also see a reduction in the amount of staff time that is usually spent on paper files. This plan will streamline and automate circuit court files and eliminate to the greatest extent possible the processing and tracking of paper court documents. This is something our professionals in our community who frequent our clerk's office on a regular basis has stressed the need of, an efficiently and effective e-file system, Jeff.
Thank you. What are some of the fees the public could be charged when visiting the office? And if elected, are there any you would change?
One of the most important roles of the clerk of the court is being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. There are several fees that need to be evaluated and see if there are alternatives to save the taxpayer any money. Citizens lately have had lots of questions about the concealed carry permit fees. There have been an overwhelming amount of applications in the past year due to the Democrat Party threatening to eliminate our Second Amendment. It's no secret. A concealed carry class costs an individual anywhere from $35 to $100 just to get a certificate of completion, and then a $50 application fee on top of that. The clerk collects only $10 of that fee. Since day one of this campaign, I've stated that I will offer a concealed carry class through the clerk's office to offset potential costs to our taxpayers who wish to obtain a concealed carry permit, and do everything I can to eliminate the clerk's portion of that fee. Jeff, while we're on the topic of concealed carry permits, I stand fast that there will be no such thing of holding permit applications until the 45-day deadline. My opponent just said yesterday, 35-40 was the average. Further, for those who may need an expedited permit, my door will always be open to discuss that situation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
During recent mock interviews hosted by career partners, juniors at Culpeper County Public Schools were asked about their social media presence. How does your social media presence play a role for a clerk of the court and their office?
Jeff, to be honest with you, I originally wasn't going to entertain this question simply because we all know what a disaster social media can be when people with opposing views can be passionate about their beliefs. When it comes to disastrous is when the attacks turn personal and affects the candidates' families. I'm used to the attacks on social media. Why? Because you always know where I stand on the issues. From supporting prayer for school board meetings to the attacks on our Constitution, my strong push to reopen our schools to supporting President Trump. You have zero question where I stand. You can say the same for my opponent? No. Has he used social media to inform you of any of his views or stances? No. Other than the leadership of the Democratic Party speaking for him, that is all you know about him. You've seen me on social media with my school board page, the Republican Party page, and obviously the clerk's page. You always are informed and know where I stand on the issues. Jeff, I'll remind you, in 2017, you wrote an article about how successful I was using social media in my race for school board. I used that social media platform, similar to the ones now, to bridge the communication and informational gap with the public. What's interesting, though, is the Sheriff's Office is the only constitutional office who uses social media to connect with the citizens of Culpeper. I can assure you there will be a plan and policy in place to utilize social media in the clerk's office to give our citizens another avenue to questions that they may have. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. If elected, what are your goals for the office?
Well, the first order of business is we're going to put "In God We Trust" on all stationery and signage. We've touched on modernization and technology improvements a little already with the e-file system. I want to ensure the office of the clerk is doing everything in its capacity to be responsible to the taxpayer with their money. The clerk's office has to be represented by someone who is going to be a strong proponent and defender of our Second Amendment, not to mention someone who's going to take serious the preservation of the rich history of the clerk's office, its documents, and its monuments. The clerk's office has some amazing employees who work there, Jeff. They work hard, but often they are overworked. Some spend their weekends coming in just to catch up. Is this a management problem, or is there another reason that constantly keeps that office understaffed? The most important goal is to ensure the clerk's office is not only responsive, but accessible and welcoming to all citizens, including law enforcement. Until the retirement of Janice Corbin, no one even knew my opponent worked there. Again, I'm the candidate you all know and is always accessible. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Mr. Keene, the floor is yours.
Okay. I don't think I'll take 3 minutes, but I appreciate it, Jeff. I want to thank everyone who has taken their time to hear from the candidates. Hopefully it was educational and informative. I know that's been the Chamber's goal this whole time. Some believe that our national elections, such as president, have the greatest impact on our lives. I disagree. I truly believe it's our local leaders that affect us the most. Think about this for a moment. Our sheriff has had an impact statewide on the protection of our Second Amendment rights. Our school board and staff have offered in-person learning before any other districts in the area. Our schools have become the gold standard for other school districts to follow, and I'm proud to be a part of that. These are just two examples, Jeff, of how different life would be if we had elected different local leadership. So again, local elections have the greatest impact on our daily lives. Clerk of the court is no different. It's an important position in our community, and you need to know what the person in that position has as far as their beliefs and their views and their values. Do they align with yours? I'm Marshall Keene, your Republican candidate for clerk. You absolutely know where I stand, and I would appreciate your vote on March 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keene.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll remind everyone that on March 30th, there's a special election for the Culpeper County Clerk of the Court. We encourage everyone to vote. Thank you.